I'm getting ready to move, providing our first house purchase goes through smoothly, so videos will be hard to get out for a few weeks, but I'm endeavoring to at least finish this video and do some reviews of Far Cry 5 before I have to pack everything up. Today we'll be taking a look at Final Fantasy 15 on the Xbox One X and the Potato Masher Pro. If you don't know, the Potato Masher Pro is a $450 PC featuring a GTX 1060 and Xeon 3440. I compare it to the Xbox One X to show how you can have a great high-resolution gaming experience, even on a console budget. Let's get to it. For anyone curious, I won't be using any other visual modes on the Xbox One X except the highest quality mode, which is locked at 30 FPS and features dynamic resolution that typically ranges from about 1440p to a bit over 1900p. The mode that lets you drop the resolution and unlock the frame rate sounds great, but in reality disables VSync and usually stays in the 30s and 40s according to Digital Foundry. That's not a great experience, so just like I wouldn't show that off on the PC, I'm not going to suggest you use it on the Xbox either. Before we look at the differences between the two platforms, let's talk about what's the same. The game's art style and lighting are top-notch and help make Final Fantasy 15 one of the better-looking games of this generation, at least so far. Even without using NVIDIA's proprietary hair technology, hair and creature fur are detailed and great-looking, at least at normal playing distances. In cutscenes where you're zoomed in on characters' faces, there's some obvious pixelation and aliasing that can be a bit distracting, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. Additionally, shadows, ambient occlusion, draw distances, and even anisotropic texture filtering are all very similar, if not close to identical at these settings on the PC, and I'm calling these settings about medium. You will notice that the Masher Pro is running at native 4K, so a bit higher than the Xbox One X, but I actually don't see a very noticeable difference in sharpness in-game. I believe this is due to the game's built-in temporal anti-aliasing solution. FXAA is also an option, but it leaves too many jaggies for my taste even at 4K, and TAA cleans them up at the expense of sharpness, so the Masher Pro technically has the edge, but if I didn't tell you, you might not have noticed. To further prove the point, here's the Masher Pro at the same settings but with 75% resolution scaling enabled. There's a difference, to be sure, but it's not massive like it is in some games. I'm more impressed that the X1 X is doing so well with texture filtering and ambient occlusion, since those are usually areas where consoles tend to struggle or developers pick up a few extra frames by reducing or disabling those settings. On to the differences. The Xbox One X has great textures, but the Masher Pro appears to be running one setting higher. Unlike when the regular Masher was one step lower than the PS4, and that difference was blurry textures and a general muddy look to quite a few assets, here both platforms look fine, the Masher Pro just looks better. Also, the Masher Pro has more ground cover and tessellation. Like I mentioned in the Masher review of the game, it looks like the PC doesn't just have more ground cover, the art has been adjusted a bit in the time between the console and PC releases. I don't know that the style looks better necessarily, but the PC version certainly allows you to have more detail, so that's nice. As another option, here's the game at 1440p, locked at 30 FPS and very high settings. Because of TAA, it looks okay on a 4K monitor, but obviously not as sharp. The visuals also look a bit better, but not by a significant amount. I'd probably still stick with 4K and medium settings if it were me, but if you own a 1440p monitor and the Masher Pro, you can max the game out. Now, the Xbox One X can't lock at 60 FPS at any available settings, but what's possible on the Masher Pro? At 1440p in low settings, the Masher Pro delivers a mostly consistent 60 FPS. There are drops from time to time of 2 to 3 FPS, but they are rare and the overall experience is a locked 60. However, low settings introduce enough pop-in and noticeably downgraded visual settings that I don't really like how the game looks. Dropping to 1080p and medium settings improves the visuals quite a bit at the expense of a lower resolution, and the frame rate is also fairly consistent with a few drops. The CPU and GPU appear to have enough overhead, so it could be RAM speed or just game optimization that's to blame, but the drops weren't noticeable without a frame rate counter, so I'm not too worried about them. Maybe I'm spoiled by the G-Sync monitor I've been using on my personal rig for a year or so, but I'm less concerned by a few small frame rate drops than I would be by frame timing issues. The PS4 suffered from bad frame timing when the game first released, and the Xbox had a few issues too. Happily, the game has been patched and both platforms run quite a bit better, and the issue wasn't present on the PC. A few extra months of optimization will do that for you, and that's kind of what we saw with GTA 5 if you remember. So 1080p and 60 FPS is great on the Masher Pro, 1440p and 60 FPS is a bit dodgy, and 4K 60 FPS is just not an option. In my opinion, another win for the Masher. It's slightly better at 4K, but without a direct comparison, most people would think the two platforms deliver similar experiences. At 30 FPS, the only thing that stands out to me as being a noticeable downgrade on the Xbox is ground cover. The Masher Pro also has the flexibility to deliver a pretty good 60 FPS experience, although it isn't perfect. A big thank you to everyone who supports me on Patreon. Check out the Potato Masher and the PS4 playing Final Fantasy XV if you haven't already. Consider subscribing if you enjoyed the video, and let's continue the conversation down in the comments. Have a great day.